So we had a pretty stacked NXT show this week with the Triple Threat #1 contendership match and the tag titles up for grabs and the debut of Ric Flair's daughter, Charlotte Flair. So I was really expecting a pretty damn good show from NXT, as this has been hyped up moderately to semi-well in my opinion. But in my opinion, what could have been a good show ended up just being an okay show for various reasons, of which I'll go on to in this review. Please leave me your thoughts and comments on the show and NXT in general down in the comment section below. Also in the description box, I'll make sure this time, like I forgot last week, that I put a link to this week's NXT show. So let's get on with this review. So we started off this show with the NXT Championship #1 contendership match between Leo Kruger, Antonio Cesaro, and Sami Zayn. With the Wyatt family being on the show and then being a massive deal on NXT and also in WWE, you had to feel that the #1 contendership match was going to open this show, and I think it was in the right spot opening the show. I think the thing about this match for me, the everlasting thought, was that it really suffered from a lack of time. I mean, you've got Antonio Cesaro and Sami Zayn, who we know can wrestle a good match. You've got Leo Kruger, who's a semi-decent performer, I believe, and in a #1 contendership match for your biggest championship on NXT, and it only goes 7 minutes. It was a little bit disappointing for me because the match was going along pretty well, and then all of a sudden it just felt really rushed towards the end, like they were getting in all their spots, like it had been edited through the commercial break they had there, and it just really should have gone on longer in my opinion. It could have been much better had it gone on longer. So it really ended up just being an okay match in my opinion. As for Leo Kruger winning, I can't say I'm surprised because I think Leo Kruger has been kind of touted as the #1 contender. He's attacked Bo Dallas on a couple of occasions now, so he was always going to get the win here. And I believe this match was only going to be there to really further on the storyline between Antonio Cesaro and Sami Zayn. And I must admit, I am looking forward to seeing how they finish off their feud. I believe, from what I've been told on the dirt sheets actually, that they had a really good 2 out of 3 falls match on this taping. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. Leo Kruger versus Bo Dallas at some point down the line should be a semi-decent win for Bo Dallas, that's all I'll say. In my opinion, most of the time devoted to this next segment really could have been added to the opener to make it a lot better, in my opinion. We have Scott Dawson, who came out with Sylvester Lefort versus Bo Dallas, and in my opinion, this was just kind of pointless. You know, you could have added the time from this match onto the first match, and I really didn't care all that much. I'm not really caring about Scott Dawson, even with Sylvester Lefort being there. I'm not really bothered about Bo Dallas either. And you know it's saying something when not even Sylvester Lefort can save a freaking match/segment for me. And it's also quite compelling as to how Bo Dallas is entering to a chorus of boos once again. It seems like that boy definitely has Cena syndrome right now, and no surprise to see Bo Dallas go over. I'm just wondering what exactly NXT are going to try and do to maybe stop these boos, because it doesn't really seem like they can do much about it. It seems like the crowd kind of know exactly what they want from Bo Dallas, and that what they want is that they don't want him because they keep chanting "No more Bo." I'm just saying. It's also funny how, once again, Leo Kruger comes out to attack Bo Dallas as a heel, and we get "Thank you, Kruger. Thank you, Kruger." Now, it says a lot about your top babyface on the NXT brand, much like it's the same with John Cena. And also, has Bo Dallas actually main evented one show since he's become champion? So, because I don't believe he has. So does that make him a mid-card version of John Cena? So this was the show we first got to see Ric Flair's daughter, Charlotte Flair, and we actually got an in-ring promo segment with Ric Flair. It was really good to see Ric Flair on this show. It kind of made the show feel a little bit special, in my opinion. You have Ric Flair coming out doing his usual shtick, but he's not out there to put himself over today. He was out there to put over his own flesh and blood, his daughter, Charlotte Flair. And as for the match between Charlotte Flair and Bayley, you know, it seems like Charlotte Flair has a gymnastics background, and they're kind of basing her character around that. And the Bayley character is like the starstruck, I can't believe I'm in the same ring or in the same arena/segment with so-and-so, this time being Ric Flair and Charlotte Flair. I wasn't really too bothered about the match. I was just really seeing how they were going to present Charlotte Flair. She just seems like a kind of vanilla, typical WWE babyface that does a couple of gymnastics, which I'm guessing if you have Ric Flair at ringside, people will definitely care. And the gymnastics, I guess, could get people to care down the line. I mean, if people cheered for Emma's awkward dancing gimmick, I'm pretty sure they might cheer for some gymnastics or two, especially if she's a pretty good-looking chick, which she definitely is. It's time for like the odd notes section of this NXT review, where I'm not really talking about any segments, I'm just talking about various backstage segments, etc. Apparently, Sheamus is going to be competing next week, and it looks like, judging by the backstage segment, he's going to be facing Bray Wyatt. That should be a very interesting main event. You know that WWE are high on someone when you have him face Chris Jericho And there you have it in face Sheamus, two main event guys in WWE. Shows you that WWE have a lot of confidence and are very high on Bray Wyatt right now. Also, it looks like Mike Dalton, aka Mini Dolph Ziggler, is going to be debuting a model gimmick next week, and his name is Tyler Breeze. This should be quite funny. Seeing a Mini Ziggler dressed as a model, it would be like a sort of little version of Johnny Nitro. Also, next week, we're going to be getting Paige versus Emma for the Women's Championship. Looks like it's not going to be the main event like I really wanted it to be. That's probably going to be Bray Wyatt versus Sheamus. It's probably going to open the show, but I'm still quite looking forward to this match. It looks like we're going to be having a double main event next week, kind of similar to what we had this week. So next week's show should also be pretty good. Sheamus versus Bray Wyatt and Paige versus Emma for the Women's Championship. That sounds like a good show to me. In our main event of the evening, the NXT Tag Team Championships were up for grabs as Corey Graves and Adrian Neville, Corey Graves being the replacement for the injured Cassius Ohno, of course, went up against the Wyatt family, Luke Harper and Eric Rowan, who we've seen debut on Raw just last week. Before I go on to this match and what happened and my thoughts on it, etc., I just want to give you some of my thoughts on Corey Graves. I haven't really addressed Corey Graves properly yet, and I know Corey Graves has a lot of fans out there on the internet, and a lot of people like him. He came from the independents, etc. But I've got to admit, for me, I'm not really that bothered about Corey Graves. I don't know what it is. I just can't get into the tweener, stay down, bad boy gimmick. I just can't get into it right now. I don't know why that is, but I would care a lot more if Cassius Ohno was in this spot rather than Corey Graves. I'm just not feeling the gimmick, and I'm just not feeling the gimmick right now as much as I would maybe a Sami Zayn or a Big E Langston or the Wyatt family or various other characters on NXT right now. So Corey Graves for me is just a bit meh. Anyway, going on to this match, it was your standard main event tag team match involving the Wyatt family. It was a pretty solid match, and it was kind of unnoteworthy at first. You had quite a large heat segment, and then you got Adrian Neville doing some of his high spots, which generally gets the crowd back into it. But the highlight of this really was the fact that you had Sheamus coming out to neutralize Bray Wyatt, who actually interfered in the match, and you have Corey Graves and Adrian Neville actually go on and win the match and win the NXT Tag Team Championships, which for me was a legit surprise. I mean, they've given me a legitimate surprise here that I had no idea was going to happen. I thought Wyatt family were going to retain the belts and maybe drop them at a later date to maybe a better tag team. It's also hyping up Sheamus and Bray Wyatt in the main event for next week as well, which was a nice little touch for it in my opinion. But this was a nice way to end the show. New NXT Tag Team Champions beating the Wyatt family, who had been undefeated for quite some time. And I would have cared a lot more if it was Cassius Ohno and Adrian Neville, but I still felt this was a pretty nice way to end the show. Like I said, a somewhat legit surprise for me. I never really thought this was going to happen, so that's definitely a good thing. As for the Wyatt family losing the belts, I must admit I did expect it coming soon because of the fact they're going to be on Raw and they're going to be a big deal on Raw and SmackDown and WWE television in general, so they're not going to be around on NXT that much. So I did kind of expect them to lose the tag team belts. I just didn't expect them to lose the tag team belts on this show. As for this show overall, like I said at the beginning, I just thought it was okay. I mean, judging what we got on the card, it probably could have been a really good show, but it was just fell below expectations. The opening match for me, the number one contention match, just didn't get enough time. I really didn't care about Scott Dawson versus Bo Dallas. Charlotte Flair debuted, was okay, I guess. They did hype up good for next week, though. I mean, we've got Sheamus versus Bray Wyatt, Paige versus Emma. We've got the new Mike Dalton model boy gimmick or whatever, which should at least give me a laugh. But in the main event, we did have a very legit surprise, which kind of carried the show up just a tad for me. So an okay show, to say the least. I'd like to get your thoughts on this show as well. Remember, next week, we're going to be having a pretty stacked card as well. This is kind of like a double main event on this show. So leave me your thoughts on this show and what happened in the show down in the comment section below. And I'll be back next week with another NXT review. Thank you very much for watching this NXT review from me, Mr. Parkin, and goodbye.